Do you ever watch your favorite travel vlog and find yourself sitting back admiring those fancy animated travel maps that just look so darn good? These are just a few of my favorites from creators I love to watch, and today I'm going to show you how to get started making your own. Let's jump right in. To do this, we're going to open up Blender. Now, for those of you who don't know, Blender is an open source 3D animation suite, and it is pretty intimidating when you first open it up. There's a lot of things it can do, but the good news is we don't actually have to know how to do 99% of what the software can do. We're just going to be using a tiny little fraction of it, and it's actually pretty simple. So for this tutorial, we're going to be using Blender 4.5.1 LTS, and for this, we are going to be utilizing a plugin that is available on GitHub. I will put a link down in the description. This plugin is called BlenderGIS, and this is going to be how we source our map. So what we're going to do is go ahead and download code, download a zipper file, and I'm just going to put this in my downloads folder and save that right there, and that is downloaded. Let's go back to Blender. We're going to go up to Edit, Preferences, and I want to go to Add-ons. And let's just center this right here. Show you guys this. And then click this little down arrow, and we want to install from disk. We do not want to open up the zipper file that the BlenderGIS file came in. We're just going to go ahead and click on that, and we're just going to say install from disk. And there it is. It has a checkbox. It's enabled. And if you notice up here in the corner, we now have this GIS option in the menu bar. So now that BlenderGIS is now installed, the first thing we're going to want to do is just click on the GIS menu bar item, and we're going to go to Web Geodata and open up Basemap. And we'll see this little menu pop up right here. And this is where we get to choose where we source our maps from. So under source, we have Google, we have OSM for OpenStreetMap, we have Bing and ESRI. And then we also have OSM WMS. I don't really know what that one is, but that's okay. So let's just say we want Google satellite images. So we can go down to layer, make sure satellite is selected, and we can go down and press OK. And we now have a different perspective in our 3D viewport, and we can go ahead and press our mouse wheel or our plus and minus keys on our keyboard to kind of zoom in, and we can also click around and drag. And if you want to know what keys I'm pressing, you can see this little icon down here in the bottom corner to give you an idea of how I'm using this program or this plugin. But let's go ahead and just pick a certain area that we want to explore. So let's say I want probably the Colorado mountains. And as I'm zooming in, you'll see up here in the corner that we are downloading all the map information, and there we go. So let's just say we are happy with this map and we want to use everything from here. And then all we have to do is just press E on our keyboard, and we have now exported our map into a 3D plane. Now, from here, we can continue animating in Blender. Unfortunately, I have no idea how to do any of that. So what I'm more interested in is going up here to our image editor, and we're just going to go ahead and open up this image here. And all I have to do is go up to image, save as, and we get to have this map to start animating with. But there is a little secret we can do with this plugin. Now, BlenderGIS has multiple different base layers that we can use, and to show you one of my personal favorite ones, we can just go ahead and delete this by pressing X and enter, delete, go back to GIS, open up Basemap again, and I tend to like the ESRI light gray Basemap. This is a very nice Basemap, and you'll see it here. We'll go ahead and load this in again. And we get the exact same region, the exact same positioning. All I have to do is just press E, and now our map is exported onto a 3D plane. And if I come back up to our image editor, we can open up this image right like that. And so we have this nice detailed map of the area we kind of want to make our animation in. But if you noticed in the opening sequence of this video, I had a map identical to this one, but one key difference is that it did not have these labels. So the United States and then the state labels were not present. And to do this, this is where things get a little tricky. Now, the secret to this is that even though BlenderGIS has a preset number of maps that you can pick from, we can actually go in and add our own, which is pretty darn cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can add this exact same map layer into BlenderGIS, but we're going to get a version without labels. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and close out Blender. If we want to add in a new map into this, we have to do a little bit of clever Python coding. Now, don't worry, we don't actually have to know how to use Python. We're just going to copy and paste from a script I have obtained, and I will share it with you guys so that you can also use the same base layer I'm using in this video. So first, we need to locate where Blender installed the BlenderGIS plugin. So to do this, we're going to be in our home directory, and we're going to press Shift Command period, and this is going to reveal all the hidden directories in our file system. So we're going to go to Library, let's see, Application Support, Blender 4.5, Scripts, Add-ons, BlenderGIS. Now we are inside where BlenderGIS is installed, so we're going to look under Core, and then base maps, and we are looking for this service.defs.py file. And we're going to go ahead and open this with a text editor. And let me just pull this over here so we can get an idea of what's going on inside of this messiness. So what we're doing is basically looking for how BlenderGIS is defining sources for our base layers. So under source definitions here, we can actually see where it's doing things. So we have our Google category here where we have satellite layer, map layer here, and then we have another category for OSM. Then we have our Bing category, and then of course we have our ESRI category, and then all the different layers that are within that category. So what I'm going to do from here is basically just copy and paste this script in particular that I wrote off to the side, and we're just going to copy and paste and insert it underneath our entry here. So let's go ahead and save this, and then let's open up Blender again. And the reason we closed out Blender is because we don't want things getting confused while it's loading. And if we open Blender again, we know we succeeded because we now have GIS still up here. So all we're doing is just going to copy and paste this line of code into the bottom of our entries down here. We added a new category called CartoDB, and we just basically copied the same format over here. And I mean, it's not like perfectly lined up, I guess, grammatically for Python or whatever, visually, I guess, but it works. And that's all I care about right now because I am not a Python coder. And when we do this, we want to make sure that the previous entry is always going to have this comma. Python loves to have commas at the end of each entry. And if you don't have these, this will break. And usually you will know because GIS option up here in Blender will completely disappear. So now that we have that document saved, we're going to go ahead and reopen Blender, and we still have GIS up here in the corner. So that is good news. Everything still works. We're going to go ahead and go to our base maps, and to verify, we have a new category in here. We can click on source, and we now have our CartoDB entry, and that is really excellent news. So we're going to go ahead and open that, and now we are in business. If I zoom in, we have the exact same type of map layer that ESRI light gray is, but we have no labels listed whatsoever, which is pretty cool. So if we take a look at this map, we notice that we are now on zoom level 6. However, if I zoom into level 7, we now see city data and roads on this map. So I really like the size of zoom level 6, but I like the detail of zoom level 7. So how do I get the best of both worlds? Well, to do this, we're going to go ahead and zoom back out to level 6, and we're going to center our map exactly where we want it. Then on our keyboard, we're going to press L, and now we see in the corner, we have zoom level 6 locked. So our map size, or the camera, in fact, is now in a locked position, but we can still use the scroll wheel or the plus and minus keys to control our zoom level. So we're locked at zoom level 6, but what we can do from here is press the plus key, and we will now load in zoom level 7 data. And voila, we now have roads and everything in here. What I'm going to do is just press E to export this onto a 3D plane. That 3D plane has mysteriously vanished. I'm pretty sure that has to do with the render distance in the viewport. Don't worry, it's still there, listed here as an object. We don't really care about the 3D viewport. We're not doing our animation here. So let's go to image viewer, and if I go and load our CartoDB map, there it is. We have a pretty big map loaded in, and we can zoom in pretty far actually. There's a lot of data here, so we can do a lot with this, and we're going to. So let's go ahead and click on image. We're going to save as, and we're just going to make sure it's saving as a JPEG and save it in any directory you so desire. We're going to go ahead and click save, and we are now officially done with Blender. Now, if you are proficient in Blender, you probably know how to do animation in it, and you could probably just keep going from here. But unfortunately, I am not proficient in Blender, so we're going to go ahead and close this out. And if you ever wanted to come back and load in new base layers with the same resolution or whatever, you probably will want to save this. All right, so I've gone ahead inside of DaVinci Resolve and imported our image into our media pool, and you can take a look at our metadata, and we can see that it is a pretty big image. And we can probably even go more resolution on this if we really, really wanted to, but we're not going to bother just for this tutorial. We're just going to go ahead and go straight into our timeline. And the first thing I'm going to do is drag a Fusion composition clip onto our timeline, and we'll make it, let's just say 15 seconds long or something. And then from here, we're just going to go ahead and open Fusion, move our media out node way over here off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and click on media pool. We'll drag and drop that into our node editor, load this image into our viewer. Now, one of the reasons I wanted a map without labels is because I want to add my own in. So we're going to go ahead and do that. With our map image node selected, we're going to go ahead and press Shift Spacebar, add in a text plus, and we will load the right viewer with the result of that. Click on text plus, and I want to add in, let's say, Salt Lake City, and obviously our color on text is white, which is not great, so let's turn that black, and we are good to go now. Let's go ahead and get our sizing in order. So shrink things down. I think that's nice. Now, another thing we can do is spend some time messing around with shapes or ellipse masks to add markers to show where these cities are at. But alternatively, what we can do is just in our text node, to make things super easy, is just press Shift Option 8. And now we have a Fahrenheit symbol. And that is just a little hack we can use to mark where our cities are going to go. And nobody will be the wiser. Now, I have a font I want to try, and this is another thing I like about making my own labels, is that I get full control over what the labels are and what they look like. So let's go with Oswald. I really like that. I think that looks really good. We're going to have to realign this with the actual city location though. So we'll drop that there. And I think that is perfect. So basically all we have to do from here is just press Control C, Control V, and drop in another merge node, load that in the viewer, and we can label another city. So let's go ahead and name, let's say, Denver. And as we can see, they are overlapping because they occupy the exact same space, but we can move it over. And then all we have to do is just go through and add all the labels we want. So I'm just going to go ahead and spend some time adding all the ones I want for a simple animation here. Okay, so I think we have enough labels on our map. Let's go ahead and add an animated line on our map, because what good is a map animation without an animated line? So let's go ahead and select our start node for our map, and we're going to press Shift Spacebar and add in a paint node as our second node in this node tree. And then to do a line, we're just going to go ahead and select the polyline stroke tool. And all we're going to do is click and drag to all the other places that we want our animated line to pass over. And this is probably going to be very rough at first because I suck at animating curves, although we might actually get lucky this time. That's not too bad. So, I mean, we just want to pass through all these cities until we end up in Bozeman. But let's add, I don't know. Yeah, add a little bit of character to this line. There we go. Okay. So obviously our line is white. We want to make it any color we want. Let's just go with black because black is cool. And now let's go to our stroke controls and brush controls. Okay, and then from here we can pull back the softness and pull the size down way considerably. I think right about there is pretty good, and I will adjust our spacing to, let's say 2.5. I think that's good. Nah, that's too far apart. Let's go to 2. Maybe 1.5. Yeah, let's keep that one right there. So there you go. We have our line from start to finish, from Albuquerque, Denver, Salt Lake City, Jackson, all the way to Bozeman. And we can go back and edit any of these curve points that we don't like where they sit. I don't really like how this curve passes through the Denver marker, so we'll just make that go on the outside, but it's entirely an artistic preference. Same thing with the Jackson one here. I don't really want it touching, so we'll just go on the outside, zoom out, and there you go. So what we do from here is go to our start frame, and we can animate this right on control in the corner to start at nothing. Click the keyframe button, and we'll animate it to the end. Let's say right around here. So now that we have our animated map line, we want to go ahead and start framing our animation. So to do this, I'm going to go to the end of our node tree, and we're just going to press Shift Spacebar again, go to Transform, add a Transform node, and from here, let's go ahead and size this window in correctly. And we wanted to just make sure that our transform node is being piped into our media out node, because this is what's going to send it to our editing timeline. Without this, you're just going to get a blank screen when you go back to the edit page here. So last step, we will size this up. So let's go ahead and zoom in on our map, and then we can adjust our center y-axis, and I kind of like maybe put it right there. So let's jump to the last, or the first frame. Oop, and go right there. And let's go ahead and keyframe in on both the sides and the center. And we can go to the last frame, and we can just make some adjustments here. So I will push this up right about there, and then I can push our scale in just a wee bit there. And now we have sort of an animated camera movement to go with our map animation. And from here, we're basically done. I suppose we could also go to our, nope, go away, go away, go away. Okay, I suppose from here we can go to our spline tool and edit our transform curves. What I'm going to do is box select these, and we're just going to press S, and that is going to just smooth out our animation curve for the camera of movement. I suppose we could also potentially do the same thing for our paint node from start to end. Let's disable the transform node so we only see the end node. So let's go ahead and select that, and we can press S. And for whatever reason, we have a bunch of other keyframes in here that should not be here. So we'll just go ahead and delete those. We have our start keyframe here. And real quick, I'm just going to make a few minor adjustments to my curve. I want the start of the curve to happen outside of the city marker. And we want to do the same with the last endpoint of our animation. So yeah, I think right there is pretty good. Now, one of the things I really like about having sort of a grayscale map is that we can actually manipulate the color of our map too through brightness, contrast, and even some slight color tinting. So what I'm going to do is just add a brightness contrast node. Now, this map in particular does sort of have a blue tint on the ocean. We can keep that if we'd like, but if not, we can also just go ahead and pull back our saturation all the way to 0, and we now have official grayscale image, which I think kind of looks aesthetically cool and very pleasing to look at. And with our animation complete, let's go ahead and head over to our timeline. So there you have it. That is how you can easily make an animated map inside of DaVinci Resolve with a little bit of help from Blender. This is a method that I have recently come across in the past few years. A lot of people have been asking me to make a new video on making map animations because apparently my older videos are sort of obsolete in how I source the map material. So this is the new method going forward. I think it is going to be sticking around for quite a long time because it is just so easy to use. And if you guys want to know more about how to add more map layers into BlenderGIS, feel free to drop a comment down below and I'll probably get around to making a video on the different map layers that I like to use or even just like to look at, because let's face it, maps are freaking cool to watch and look at. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, wherever that may be. Bye.